Well, good Sunday evening to you. You know, as I look back on the week that was, it really wasn't a whole lot. Pretty much played out as expected. There were a few outliers that I'll speak about, but when you think about it, ADP kicked off with higher numbers for employment, expected, unexpected. It's hard to tell with them. And then Powell, in his typical cherry coating way, raised rates quarter point. Yeah, the world interpreted it as that's it. He even put out some statements that said, maybe we'll pause. I don't buy it. ECB followed. They went up another quarter point, pretty much as expected. And then Apple. Apple reported it beat the reduced estimates and offered no guidance. As I said in Drinking the Kool Aid, one of my posts earlier this week, what do you expect? Friday, well, employment numbers reflected what ADP expected. They went up. Unemployment rate moved back down to 3.4%. Can't tell me that they're going to stop raising rates because of that. And then there was one that really kind of blew me away, and that was the consumer credit report. I'll get to that later. It is something I want to discuss, but that was the week that was, and there wasn't much. Next week, yep, got CPI on Wednesday, and their numbers are looking a little higher, and I'm sure they'll spin it in a way that it won't affect things up or down, or just continue to do the range bound up or down as far as the markets. Bank of England, well, they're expected to go up a quarter point on Thursday, and then there's the PPI, which has pretty much become a non-event. So, as others I follow summed it up this week, they're expecting a triple whammy next week. Well, what's the whammy? You got the CPI, banks are still in crisis, and oh yeah, the debt ceiling showdown. Well, it was hard for me to interpret this week essentially what the street was trying to say. Some people heard that Powell's done. Powell said, well, maybe I'm done, but in all sincerity, we might have to do more if the numbers meeting to meeting keep coming in a little on the high side for inflation. Now, maybe he hasn't figured it out. Maybe he hasn't. As I say, he speaks eloquently and tries to keep peace, quote unquote, in the financial markets. All things considered, however, I'm not so sure why the financial markets, for the next rate increase, have said we're going to pause. What surprises me more is they're essentially giving it a 50-50 chance that they're going to start bringing rates down in July. I don't buy it. What are they smoking? If you're one of those people that think that's going to happen, remember, I have a bridge over the East River that's for sale. It's cheap, too. So we got stubborn inflation. Yeah. CPI is going to release on Wednesday, and the indications are is a zero point 0.4 up versus a zero point 0.1 up in March. Headline 5.2 versus 5 previous month, and then there's that sticky core. I expect the core to rise 0.3% for the month, and 5.6% from a year ago. That's well above the Fed's 2% target. So I got a feeling that the Fed is going to continue to maintain its fight on inflation. Powell agrees. Basically, in an excerpt of one of his statements, he says, hey, look, if that forecast is right, it's not going to be appropriate to cut rates this year. Did you hear that? It's not going to be appropriate to cut rates. Well, let's take a look at the banks. Well, new names. Sure, we saw one problem, another one rises. This week's name du jour was Pacific West Bancorp. Oh yeah, and don't forget Tennessee's First Horizon. Oh yeah, and then there's Western Alliance in Arizona. It's almost like when one solution happens, another problem arises. Is it going to continue? My guess is yes. Are we going to end up footing the bill? Certainly. We've never done it any other way. I hope they don't make the same mistakes as they did in 2008. And, what can I say? If there is a reason that the Fed is going to pause, it is because of this banking fiasco. Face it, that's what they did in 2008. Yeah, they made a mistake. They kept rates down too low for too long. But yeah, we won't make that same mistake again, will we? Who knows? I don't trust anything that anybody does on the political side of the world these days. But who am I? If they cite severe stress and my goodness gracious, we had to do it to protect our banking system, they're going to get away with it. I think this crisis is still unfolding. So if there is a reason that the Fed decides to pause, and God forbid, lower rates, this is it. Then there's the old showdown. Gunfight at the gunfight at the White House. We got a debt ceiling crisis coming. This is, I don't know how many in my lifetime I've seen and gone through. Each and every time it either gets solved, each and every time they raise the debt limit, or they delay raising it. Let's keep talking. Let's see what happens. So we're sitting right now with a 31.4 trillion debt ceiling. Probably going to go higher. You're probably going to pump more money into the economy. They kind of have to. They've got to maintain some forward motion in this world of stagflation. However, that's certainly not going to get rid of inflation. So the big four are getting together. You got Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, and Hakeem Jeffries. And they're going in there, guns blazing. I think I know the outcome of this one already. Where it would be best to literally put their heads together and come up with a plan that starts to address the long-term effects of debt increases. They're going to kick the can down the street again. A month, 2 months, the same thing is going to come up. Yellen says June 1st. I can't really reflect on anything that Yellen has said from her days at the Fed to her days now that I can put any credence in. So, look, we're stuck. The swamp is in control. And if you think that they're going to give it up just to do the right thing, as I said, I got a bridge over the East River. It's cheap. What I do want to talk about, you'll excuse me a little bit, as I will read this more than not, it wasn't a highly rated or important news event, perhaps to others except me. U.S. consumer borrowing increased in March by more than expected in one of the largest spikes in credit card balances on record. Total credit increased by $26.5 billion versus an estimate of $17 billion after a gain in February of $15 billion. That's the biggest since Christmas, but I guess it's okay to spend at Christmas. Revolving credit, which includes credit cards, jumped $17.6 billion, 3 times the prior month's gain, and the largest in a year. Sure, low employment helps that, but when it comes down to it, Americans aren't pulling back. They're leaning on their credit cards to maintain their lifestyle. That's going to end. All bubbles like this end. And when it does, we're going to have problems. Because like any other herd mentality, when people stop doing things, they do it all at the same time. I got a fun one here. This one just, I'm sarcastic. And this one just blew me away. Can you believe that the Christmas tree shops are going bankrupt? What are we going to do? If we don't have the Christmas tree shops out there, where are we going to buy our ornaments? Where are we going to buy our fake trees? I mean, it just makes no sense to me. Where's Walmart? Where's Target? Why didn't they call them in to bail them out? Just like they do the banks. This is tragic, folks. Actually, it's not. If you reverse it, letting a company of this nature go out of business, one that was undoubtedly affected by the supply chain disruptions that occurred during COVID and forward, let them go out of business. Let them restructure. Let them come back with something that's stronger. And take it a step further. All these banks that you're saving, let them do the same thing instead of just bailing them out. There was one other thing that I had to take note with this week. And that's the beginning of a proliferation of how-to articles. How to borrow money from your IRA. Now, naturally, they gave warnings as to why it's a bad idea. But months ago, I knew cash was gone. I knew credit was gone. Oh, what's left? Your retirement savings. It was only a matter of time. And it's starting. There's two ramifications there. One, people stop spending money. Enough of the $1,500 iPhones. You can live without them. Chances are, lead a better life without them. But the second part is the one that if you're long this market, it's an actual concern you should have. When people go to their IRAs to get money, they're not putting money in to go buy something else. They're taking money out. And in doing so, they have to sell something. That's the old supply side coming in. There's going to be a supply of stocks that are coming on the market that got sold out simply because people needed the money. You got to watch this one. There's a guy, Megatrends. It was written by John Naisbitt, 1981. I still follow it, like I follow McLuhan from the 1930s. There's reasons that these people wrote books that still rule today's world. Buy it. Read it. Yeah, there's only a couple chapters that really make any difference anymore, but they do. Well, that's about it for now. I am going to start doing a little digging on the biotechs, but not the 8 million, 10 million, 50 million capitalized. I'm looking at the big boys, pretty much the same way as I came up with SMCI. I like the best of breed. I like those that are debt free or pretty close to debt free. Have products in the pipeline. Do their own marketing, et cetera, and so forth. Short list: Amgen, Biogen, Dexcom, and Vertex. I didn't finish it up enough to be able to present it to you tonight. But during the week, I'll take a little more time and dig into these. Yeah, there's going to be a few of the more niche variety that I've always liked. I'm no better than 50-50 on those. When I'm right, it's always a big win. But I'm wrong just as often as I'm right. So I'm going to take some time, present it to you during the week, and we'll go from there. As always, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you listening. Have a good evening. Have a great week.